Second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
Another one!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Jim Coyle not here with us this morning. John, the producer, here with you. And, of course, joined by Dustin Schutte. Normally the duo known as This Week in Indiana Football, but Jim is trying to get back on a flight that he has for a little, what do you call it, a seance or a siesta, whenever you're getting out and trying to get some – or a siesta. That is the term, right? A siesta?
A siesta's a nap, right?
Okay. I don't know. But I think the other word I was thinking of was like a seance, but that's like that's like whenever somebody is trying to, it's some sort of like psychic thing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think either word that you tried to implement there applies to what Jim is doing. He would be like on a fiesta tour, right? That's like the party.
Who knows? My thoughts are all over the place this morning because we initially had plans for one thing and then plans changed to another thing, and now they're back to the original thing just because we try to do too many things around here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and that's okay. We try to bring you all the best content. We've got Dustin Schutte with us, as always, on Thursdays from Saturday Tradition. Probably enjoying a little extra time off because we're obviously heading to the bulk of the off season for college football. We do have the Super Bowl this weekend, but college football clearly heading towards a bit of a down period.
Yeah, right now, I mean, we do have plenty of basketball coverage. Obviously, it's not quite in full tilt like we do during the college football season, but, there's stuff always to keep us busy with. I mean, this has been a crazy year, even though we didn't have any Big Ten head coaching changes at all this year, which is, I don't remember the last time that happened. There's been plenty of coordinator moving, position coaches changing. There's been a lot of transfer portal news. We just wrapped up the 2022 recruiting class. And then before you know it, John, we're going to be into spring football season. I mean, we're already in mid-February and we're going to start talking about March Madness, but right about that time too. And towards the end of this month, teams are going to be kicking it off for spring ball and looking ahead to 2022. So there is no off season. There's a slow period, but there is no off season when it comes to college football.
Yep, we're squarely in that slow period, as you say. But like you said, it won't be before long when we talking about spring practice. Obviously, Indiana hired a new running backs coach, Craig Johnson. It kind of has a very similar track record as Delon McCullough in the NFL, or his NFL track record at least. He's obviously was in there a whole lot longer than Delon McCullough was, but it's the same kind of, I guess, type of coach, I would say, is what I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, he brings that NFL experience, and that obviously then helps you with developing players, knowing what those guys are looking for, and then developing those guys and getting them to the next level. I mean, that's one thing that Delon McCullough brought to Indiana, not only his previous experience in Bloomington and a heck of a good running back coach, but he had that NFL, where he was a Super Bowl champion. I mean, he was on the sidelines for that. Craig Johnson has worked with some great. I mean, he just got done working with Saquon Barkley, right? So, we've seen these kind of NFL moves. To me, a lot of these it deals more with the recruiting aspect and how they've been able to develop guys at the next level and get guys prepared for the NFL. I think this is a really good hire for Indiana. I know that there's been some underwhelming hires that Tom Allen's made, at least in my opinion, but I think that this is a really good one. I do think he's made some good staff changes, and he fulfilled a home run loss with a home run hire is the best way I can really describe it.
Especially because a lot of people, I think, when Tom Allen has to make offensive coaching hires, they're not really expecting you to hit the home run hire. Obviously, you got Delon McCullough last season, and he kind of invited himself into that role. But to be able to follow it up when you're unexpectedly losing him to someone like Notre Dame, that's definitely impressive as well, I would say. But let's go ahead and put to bed the football talk. I know everybody on here wants to talk more about the suspensions from Indiana basketball, and we haven't gotten to hear your take on that stuff, Dustin. I'm not sure if you watched Indiana Northwestern the other day, but they were without 5 scholarship players, 2 of them starters, Xavier Johnson, Parker Stewart, also the likes of Christian Lander, Michael Durr, and then I'm forgetting the 5th one. Tamar Bates.
Yep.
But just overall, what are your initial thoughts on what went down? Do you think it was handled correctly, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously none of us really know what the situation was. At least I didn't as of yesterday. So it's hard for me to speculate and ask whether it was or the perspective that it was handled correctly because I don't know the situation. At the same time, Indiana's gone through a flurry of coaches, whether it's Kelvin Sampson, Tom Crean, Archie Miller, where I would say that discipline wasn't at the forefront. And that if you let one player slip or if you let one thing slip, there's typically a snowball effect to where players believe, it's one of the things that you give them an inch, they take a mile, right? And sometimes that happens. And who could blame 18, 19, 20-year-old kids? If you think you can get away with something, why wouldn't you do that? So that got to be a problem. I mean, just look at how that whole Kelvin Sampson thing unfolded. I mean, there were guys on that team. It was a rough stretch in the transition from Kelvin Sampson to Tom Crean. I know Dan Dockich has talked about that, and even Tom Crean talked about that at length. So I think that what Mike Woodson is saying is, no, we're doing things my way. I'm establishing this culture. I don't give a damn. We're going to win as a team. We're going to lose as a team. And if it costs us the NCAA tournament, in the long run, this is going to be better for the program. And I think that that's a strong message to send because previous coaches didn't do that. I know it's frustrating if you're an Indiana fan watching that because you had a game that you really couldn't afford to lose in your NCAA tournament push and you weren't able to get a win in that. But this is a team that still has opportunities ahead. What are they? They still have Wisconsin, Ohio State, Michigan State.
Yeah, back to back. You go at Michigan State this weekend. You come back home and face Wisconsin. Then you go back on the road again and place Ohio State.
And you still have Purdue on the schedule. You still have Rutgers. I think there's another. I don't know who the other team is. I think there's still a couple other teams that I forget on that schedule. But point being is you have a chance to get some quality wins. They already have some big wins. They've already beaten Purdue. They've already beaten Ohio State. They've proven that they can hang with Wisconsin. So they have the opportunities. Yes, you would have liked to get a win. But in my opinion, Mike Woodson is establishing a culture. You have to take the necessary steps, no matter how painful, no matter at what point in the season. And then the other aspect of this is, John, and I don't like to talk about this a lot because I didn't participate at the same level, but I was on a college team where we had to deal with suspensions, and it came at a time when we were making a push for our conference tournament, right? And it can go one of two ways. One of the guys that was suspended came to us and said, "Hey guys, I'm sorry I let you down. I will work harder to be better and go in the right direction and help us win." Another guy basically tried to fight us, right? It can go one of two ways. This is where you're going to find out what this team is made of. Is this a player-led team? How are they going to respond to this? So that's what I'm really more interested to see, more so than the suspensions themselves. I think Mike Woodson did the right thing in establishing this culture, but now we're going to find out, okay, am I going to go sit in the corner and pout about my suspension or coach won't let me do whatever I want? Or am I going to step up, be a leader, apologize to my teammates, and then let's make this push for to finish the regular season strong, go into the Big Ten tournament strong, and then maybe make a push for the NCAA tournament?
I think the most aggravating thing for me when I look at the way some fans are responding to the situation is you have the same people who have been clamoring for a coach that is Bob Knight-esque, and then he kind of has policies that are Bob Knight-esque, and all of a sudden they're pissed off because it's going to potentially infract or cause an issue with getting into the NCAA tournament. And so you have two people playing two different sides of the coin. They're never satisfied, obviously. I mean, it's an Indiana fan base. It's one of the most raucous in the country. You obviously expect that kind of stuff, but I think you have to be reasonable in your expectations for what do you want these kids to be. You want them to grow as human beings. They're not just basketball players. Most of them aren't going to play in the NBA. I mean, and as a matter of fact, maybe none of them are going to play in the NBA, this particular group. You want these people to grow as human beings. You want them to be mature adults after they leave college, and you want this to be a good learning experience for them.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you just said. And look, don't put this on Mike Woodson. Those student athletes knew the rules. And I mean, look, we all make mistakes. I'm not blaming the kids. I don't know what they did. I don't know what the violation was. It could be something really silly. But the bottom line is when you have those rules in place, you have to follow them. And that's basically what Mike Woodson is saying. He's like, you're not going to do whatever you want to do, whether it's on the court or off the court, and not have any repercussions for your actions. I mean, you have to have some sense of discipline. Otherwise, we've already seen this thing can go off the rail when you don't have that kind of accountability, or when you have certain players who have exemptions to the rules. It just doesn't go well. So I think this is a good move, and it sets the precedent that, hey, I can't mess around, right? I can't. Yeah. I have to do what I need to do. I have to follow these rules. Otherwise, I'm not going to play. And I thought it was great that what Mike Woodson said, if they don't want to follow these rules, then we need to get them out of here. I think that's
great thing. One thing I mentioned to Jim after the show yesterday is back when Tom Crean first got hired, he pretty much cleaned the entire house. He only had one scholarship player on, or maybe, I don't know if it was a scholarship player or somebody. He was playing managers. I just remember that much. It was a complete cleaning of house. I don't think Mike Woodson's going to have to do something like that, especially when you factor in the transfer portal nowadays.
Right.
But it will be interesting to see how the rest of this season plays out. And if, things take a turn for the worse, if you're going to see, players, I'm not saying they'll be kicked off, but people moving on from the program and bringing a bunch of different faces again.
Yeah, that could absolutely happen. I mean, we've seen it. Sometimes these kids who stick around then decide that this isn't the best place for them, and it doesn't always have to be disciplinary reasons. It could be playing time. It could be fit. It could be, we're not going to play an offense or a defense that works to my strengths, whatever the case might be. I would suspect that we're going to see some transfers, whether those are high level players or not. I don't know, but I think that's to be expected almost from any program anymore. I mean, we've seen programs that you would never expect, like Rocket Watts at Michigan State is a great example. Who would have expected that guy to move on? He was having a good career in East Lansing, and he decides to transfer out. So you never really know how this is going to work. Sometimes look at Al Durham. I mean, Providence is 20-2 right now. They lead the Big Ten East. They lead the Big East by a game and a half, or I don't know how that math works out, but I mean, sometimes it works out for the best when these kids move on too.
Speaking of which, speaking of Big Ten East, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but just to kind of tease it, I want to get your thoughts more on, and I think we might have talked about this during the podcast, but we talked about it with Jeffrey the Greek last week as well, about Big Ten division realignment, the elimination of divisions. What your thoughts? What would you like to see? That kind of stuff. We'll talk about that and more basketball talk as well when we come back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant, and we'll be back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Whether it's a celebration.
All right. Also, YouTube comments. Go ahead and keep leaving some. I'm going to go over some of those next, or questions for either one of us, particularly Dustin Schutte. Not that I can't answer, but Dustin's more so the expert than I am, I would say, on anything. He has the years on me. Isn't that right?
Oh, is that what we're gonna go with? I have the years on you. Yeah.
By the way, look at this comment. Someone thinks you're wearing an Alabama hat. You want to tell them what it actually is?
Yeah, it's an Atlanta Braves hat, David.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good last name. How do you pronounce that last name?
I would say Derlishon or Derlishon, but you know what?
I would say Derlishon too. That's a good. I like that last name. That's a good one. Okay, so here's the difference. I'm going to explain this to the YouTube listeners right now. The difference between the Braves and the Alabama Crimson Tide is, number one, I believe that the swoosh in through the A, whatever that's called, goes the opposite direction or is tilted the other direction. That's number one. But the dead giveaway is that there's a mullet at the top, the crest of the A. There's a little squiggly line.
That's right.
And it's a mullet. And so people call it the mullet. So Alabama's got the mullet. If it's just the A with nothing else, it's a Braves hat.
Yeah, because I think you've got like copyright issues. Like that's why I see high school teams, like my high school has a reverse Denver Broncos logo.
Right. Yep.
Because I think doing that simply makes it legal because it's opposite.
Backwards.
Or whatever. I don't know.
Backwards or
something. What was your high school mascot?
We were the Lewis Cass Kings.
What was the logo, I guess? Or is it something you
Well,
need?
we went by Cast Kings. So we had a crown was one logo, and then the other logo was like an interlocking CK. I think actually one of the students when I was in junior high, one of the freshman high school, like he created that logo and they rode with it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was.
By the way, we weren't actually the Broncos; we were the Chargers. I didn't mention that, but we still have the Broncos logo.
That doesn't make sense.
Combining two NFL teams.
Was it supposed to be like it looked like a lightning bolt, like Kent State? The flashes it kind of looks like a bird, but it's supposed to be like a streak of lightning.
I don't know. Like I said, the logo was still like the horse head, like the Broncos horse head.
That's weird.
All right, we'll do more. We'll take comments about the stuff first before we get into Big Ten division realignment.
Hoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. I don't have the actual live read in front of me, so I can't, say all the fun little things about Andy Moore Honda that Jim usually does, but they are one of our proud sponsors, and if you need a Honda, go check them out in Bloomington. All right, let's go to those comments about all of this, not Mike Woods and stuff, but the player situation with the suspensions. The first one I saw earlier that I want to hit is from Jennifer. Idiots have been tweeting at the players and their parents about these suspensions. Twitter can bring out the worst in people sometimes. Yeah, it's so sad. And I don't understand these people. It doesn't matter if it's players, parents, who they're tweeting at. None of these people would ever say these things in person. People use this platform that we love and laugh at called Twitter to just say whatever the hell they want, whenever the hell they want. And you can't monitor. I know Twitter does things sometimes to monitor certain people's tweets. There's different sides of the fence on that, but I don't understand why it's so hard for people to think that it's that important, a basketball game, a basketball team,
right,
to attack someone's family and their well-being.
Well, there's a lot of different things to go into this, and I won't lament on this because this is one of the reasons why I took Twitter off my phone in the off season. I mean, I don't look at it unless I'm working, and I have to be on there. But life is better when you're not on Twitter, as I've found out. Here's the thing. I always hope in my brain of brains and my heart of hearts that the people tweeting at those players are like 14 to 17-year-olds. I know that's not the case. There's some people. I mean, if you're tweeting at a player for a suspension or whatever, like, you're a loser. Get a life. That's number one.
Speaking of losers.
Yeah, that was a perfect segue.
Look at that.
I know. That's why I jumped in when I heard that. I'm like, oh, he's talking about me. Speaking of losers, let me jump in.
Your ears must have been burning because that's what
exactly. I was sitting in the green room. I could, hear you. And then I heard loser. I'm like, oh, that's my cue. So exit stage right. My headphones are all.
Welcome back from outside the airport, Jim Coyle.
Yeah, I'm in a cornfield in Iowa.
Are you at the Field of Dreams?
Oh, there you go.
I am not in my field of dreams right now. If you're a viewer of Seinfeld, George Costanza, Jim's upset. Jim's not happy. Jim missed his flight.
Anyway, we were talking about this.
So obviously, you were talking about the. There was a comment. Is there a specific comment?
We were talking about Jennifer's comment. Idiots have been tweeting at the players and their parents about these suspensions and giving our thoughts on why people do that.
There was one guy yesterday that Rick Bozich had a great piece yesterday. You should read it. And what it talked about specifically was Indiana had a coach not that long ago that didn't do it like this way.
Right.
His name was Kelvin Sampson, and it caused the greatest mess that they're still trying to get out of. And that's not the only reason. I'll grant you that. Bad hires have played way into that. But man, he put Indiana at the rock bottom, and I'll give Tom Crean credit. He brought it out of that. They were rock bottom, and he had him ranked number 1 in the country. Didn't work for him well after that, but you've got to do it the right way. Look at Kansas is winning. They're cheating. That's why they're under investigation. There's a reason. Indiana hadn't done those things. So, but if they had, they'd be back where they were. You've got to have. It's not even about the sneaking out stuff. To me, that tells me, and I told this guy, I'm like, it doesn't even matter what they did. That's irrelevant now. What they did is so irrelevant. People just want to know. Yeah, we all want to know, but we don't need to know. And the rumor that's out there, it's not true. And that's what was pissing me off about this guy. I'm like, that's why you should stop saying it. He said, well, the media's not reporting. I said, because if you don't know, you can't print it. There's a difference between thinking something and knowing something. And especially when you do some more research and you find out, okay, this is what I think. Stop saying it was weed. It's aggravating me. But again, it doesn't even freaking matter why. It's the fact that they did it. It's the fact that a freshman who wants more minutes, 2 freshmen that want more minutes, that want to be on the court more, do this. I'm like, man, what are you thinking? And 2 seniors, but a senior that's supposed to be a leader. And then, Patrick Stewart, that's a whole different situation. I'm wondering.
Parker Stewart.
Is he? What Parker Stewart? What did I say?
Patrick.
Oh, I'm thinking of Star Trek, I guess, huh? But is he a lost cause? This is the 2nd suspension for him. And the fact that he didn't play last year when he came, there's something there. Because I've said this before, Archie would have played his grandmother if she could have hit a shot. And so that's that whole situation. I look at that. All right. Man, I hate to call people out, but hey, that's what we do here. Christian Lander, I know you're young, and I'm not going to act like a hypocrite and say, I may have been right there with you. I could have been right there with them when that went down. But you have the chance to play for Indiana University. You have all these opportunities. You got to be smart enough to know that. Immaturity, yeah, but tough. You got to get over that. There's a lot of guys that didn't make that mistake. And here's the one key. How many guys were there?
There's 5.
5, right? What does that mean? What does that mean?
There's
someone.
Is that what it means?
That means someone roomed with someone who did not go.
Okay. That's a good point. Well, do we know that four of them at least were roommates?
No, I don't know. I don't know any of that. It could be. Yeah, they said, hey, I'm going to go hang out with so-and-so or whatever. So, yeah, who knows? That's easy to get around probably. That's easy. But there's all the guys that didn't make that mistake, I'm sure that they had that opportunity. They didn't. They chose not to do that. And the guys that chose to do it the night before a game that you need, that you're already shorthanded for, that Christian Lander is going to be called upon now. You should be thinking about that. And Tamar Bates, the same. Xavier, all of them. Michael Durr and Parker Stewart, their heads are really, I'm worried about where they are with the team mentally. Xavier Johnson, extraordinarily disappointed in him, because I look at him as the leader of that. I'm not saying he was the ringleader, but I look at him as the leader of that group, because he's the leader on the floor. He's not been here but a year, but he's still a senior. He's the point guard. He's the guy that is in the mix all the time. And he's the oldest. He knew what he was doing. They all knew what they were doing. Did they really think they were going to get caught? This isn't high school, guys. It's not high school, and it's not acceptable. And again, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I could have done it easily, and I'd get my ass ripped, deservedly so. But it wasn't me, and I don't know that I would have the night before a big game. It's aggravating, and I'm not even as a fan. It just, from a reporter, I just look at it and say, dumbasses. But the worst case is they should have still won the damn game. I mean, yes, they were tired on that. Tough. Play through it. You as your brother, as your everyone, some people's fan and not Dockett says, sock up, man. Trey Galloway did.
Let me just say, having been in a situation where the night before a competition at the college level, you think you're going to make the best decision, I can promise you do not. And look, all the kids have to make that choice. But I've been in that situation, and sometimes you get caught, sometimes you don't.
I don't doubt that. I don't doubt.
My guess is that, again, in previous regimes, there's probably been situations where there hasn't been the greatest amount of discipline. And if you're able to get away with stuff, it then translates. That's why I say I don't look too much into this. It was a dumb thing to do at the point in the season when it happened. But at the same time, Mike Woodson is now saying you can't get away with this stuff anymore. I don't know what it was. But basically saying it doesn't matter what it is. If you don't follow these rules, your ass is bench.
The basics is here's what I'm going with, and this has not been, it's not. I don't have any confirmation on anything, but let's say it was fully breaking curfew, which has happened. How many times has it happened in the sports world?
Right.
It happens all the time. But breaking curfew is breaking curfew. People don't understand that's a big deal to teams. It's a major team rule. And I'm not saying that that's what happened because I don't have any confirmation of what happened, but I'm going with the basics. That's like a pretty basic thing. But it's still a basic rule. And then if you break it, you are going to be punished. I've never heard of anyone that broke curfew and didn't get punished. I mean, back in the days when they would tell you everything, so-and-so was suspended for breaking curfew. I mean, how many times did you hear that back in the day? All the time. Football all the time. They'll be without their left guard today. Joey broke curfew last night. I mean, that used to be something you would hear all the time. At least, maybe I'm too old, but at least in my memory, I used to hear it a lot. Dustin?
I mean, yeah. Excuse me. It doesn't matter what it was. It's all about the establishing a culture which wasn't there in the first place. It doesn't matter when it happened. You can't. The people who blame Mike Woodson for this, that's dumb. He's trying to establish a culture.
Or ignorant.
My team
What's he supposed to do? What is he supposed to do?
James Rush. Exactly.
Every time someone says it, I want to say, what's he supposed to do? Say it's okay, and then once you do that, there's no rule. There's no governing, no respect. There's no respect for the coach. You do that.
What hurts you in the short term by doing this then helps you in the long term. And you're trying to establish a long term, set up a program for long term success. And so when you make these decisions, that's what he's thinking about in mind. And like John and I were talking about earlier, this is Indiana still has opportunities. You still have Michigan State, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Purdue, Rutgers still on the schedule. There's some other teams on there. You can rack up some quality wins. This was you couldn't afford to lose that game to Northwestern, but it doesn't completely crush your hopes of reaching the NCAA tournament. No. You still have a chance. But it's up to these kids to respond the right way, not go over in the corner and pout and say, I didn't get a play. I don't like Coach Woodson. It's, you know what? I'm sorry, guys. I put us in a tough spot. Let's go play our ass off. Let's win some of these ball games and get into the NCAA tournament for the first time in, since 2016, was it? 15? I don't remember what the year was. But none of these kids have played in it. It's the bottom line that have been on this team for a substantial amount of time.
It was the last Big Ten championship team. The 2016 team led by Yogi Ferrell was the last one to be in the NCAA tournament, which is, I mean, I was still in high school whenever that team was playing, which is crazy to think about.
And that was an unfortunate season because that team, I think, reached number one. I believe they lost to Michigan at the end of the season, which knocked them down from having the overall number one seed. They still had a number one seed.
Team. That was 2013.
Oh, okay. You were talking about a 16. Yeah, the 13 was that was a bad deal right there. That was simply about matchups. If Indiana doesn't lose to Michigan, gets that number one seed, doesn't play Syracuse, they got a shot at a national championship. I truly believe that. They were better than the 2002 team. And obviously, they would have had a great path. Didn't work out. Just saw that comment Scott put up there that he.
Oh, there we go.
He saw a post that that fans deserve to know. Fans don't deserve jack. You deserve. What do you deserve? You're a fan. Who says who? Are you paying money to be a fan? No. Is there a written agreement? Is there a contract somewhere? No, you don't deserve jack, unless you're maybe if you're a major donor that you're forking over $10 million to get rid of Archie Miller. Yeah, you might need to know. Anybody else? No, I don't need to know. I'd like to know, but I don't. And I still dig, and I've talked to a lot of people about it, and I think I have just a basic understanding of what happened. I don't think it was a big deal. It's just a rule breaker, and people need to get over it because, again, what it was is so freaking irrelevant. It doesn't matter. They broke a damn team rule. I don't care what it was.
What's crazy is people act like they made all the best decisions in college. I just don't understand. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it was. Just move on. It doesn't affect you. I shouldn't say obviously, but if it was something so egregious, they wouldn't have sat on the bench during the game.
They would have been dressed.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what people can't get through their heads. That this guy yesterday kept going back and forth. And I just got tired of it. If it was a weed violation, they would not have been dressed. They would have been in street clothes. People, get over it, man. Again, it doesn't matter. People are consumed with knowing what it was. I told this I'm to the point I could give two craps. It doesn't even matter. I don't care. It's more about my questions are why are you not thinking about the game? You two, you have an opportunity. You're going to get to play what you've wanted all year long. People have been wanting your name. You're going to get these opportunities, but you're not thinking about that. That's not where your focus is. Why? That's what I want to know.
One more thing before we go ahead and jump to our next break. It's a very interesting comment. Would people really even be talking about this as much if Indiana pulled it out? Because I think the conversation would be more be steered how people saying, "Oh, look how deep this team actually is. We didn't really need these five guys."
Yep.
I mean, and obviously that wouldn't be the case. You still played Northwestern, and people would still understand that there was an issue with the five players. But now that they lost, the fact that people are putting it all on them, and they do deserve most of the blame.
No, they don't.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't. I think they deserve half the blame, maybe. But Indiana should have won the damn game. They lost because
– and they still could have.
Four guys, including Trace Jackson Davis, shot 7 for 30. 7 for 30. Say it again. 7 for 30.
I do think the biggest issue in some people – I think some people – and this is an excuse Trace Jackson Davis necessarily, but some people are mitigating the fact that a lot of these players that normally have – plenty more rest, especially Trey Galloway got 0 rest. And yet you still could have beat them, but if you had more guys, even just bodies, and that's one thing. I don't get why they do play. That's another mystery. But it's one of those things where I think even if you just had somebody else to go in and give them 4 or 5 minutes to breathe, you may have seen potentially different outcome.
I don't agree. I just
don't
think that's what it was. I'm not saying that they weren't. I don't think that they weren't tired, dude. You up in the summertime, you go up and down. You just go. And when you're competing, you forget. When it's real and live, you forget. So getting tired is an option. You don't get tired. I mean, that's completely true, but you're driven to go through that just by the sheer, because it's live and you know it's live. So I just, they missed too many bunnies. I mean, how many shots did Trey miss close up? And I'm not trying to be negative, but you know, you got to be honest. They were 7.
Well, that's why I said it doesn't excuse Trace Jackson Davis.
Miller Kopp had the best looks he's had all season, not knocking him down. I mean, you got to hit shots. It's just that simple. Trey Galloway had a great game, but he still had mistakes. But he had 5 turnovers. But he's not the point guard. He's never started for Indiana at point guard. So I'm not going to hang that on him. I saw somebody, I'm like, dude, why don't you go out there and start for the first time in your life at point for Indiana? Never had played it and finding out hours before. And you still go out and do what you did. He's fine. He's got to, now that hook and hold stuff, he's got to get over that. That's a bad deal. The one was kind of, I don't know about. The other one was I'm going to say it was a hook and hold. You can't do that stuff. But man, this gets me going. We got to take a break. It's got me fired up. Hey, let's take a break and back with John. Is there someone coming up?
We're going to come back. We're going to talk about Big Ten division realignment next. If you want to do that conversation,
that's fine. Back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios Annex. Brought to you by our good friends Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. They're the #1 Honda dealer for a reason. They've got the best deals. Trust me. Go see them. Go check them out. Adam, Rich, they'll give you a great deal. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Sports on television.
All right, Jim, just to catch you up on what we're doing, because I wasn't sure if you were going to actually join us or not. But we're just going to go till 9:30, and I'm going to do what I originally planned, if you're fine with that. No one else is coming on.
So you don't have guests?
Well, I did, but I just, after you said that you weren't going to be on, I told them that they didn't need to be on.
All right.
Do you have a new flight yet?
Nope.
Where are you
Jim's
at?
upset.
Airport, I assume.
Jim's upset.
At the Tampa, are you in Tampa?
Nope.
He's in Indianapolis. He has to be.
Oh, you're flying down there.
I'm flying out of Indianapolis. Yeah.
Maybe.
Potentially.
Maybe, yeah.
I was gonna have the background. There's just, you can see the wide open tarmac and planes, but it's too much light.
Oh yeah.
Plus, there's an Indy car there, which is really cool, but it's just too much light. I guess I could have sat in there and shined it back, but I figured I'd give it the field of, watch this, the Field of Dreams look.
There, a corner. There you go.
What do you say?
There's the Field of Dreams look.
Yeah.
There it is. You should just stand there. I mean, people have to be just looking at you funny.
I mean, they don't normally?
Just in general, walking past you.
I'm used to that.
Yeah.
Getting that.
I'm quite accustomed. But how about that? Was that a good Field of Dreams look there?
That was a great look. Yes.
You
Was
should
it
just do
funny?
the rest of this last segment from behind that.
I'm serious. Was it funny?
I thought it was funny. Yeah, I laughed.
What
Is there a sign in there?
I'm trying to. Is there what are they? Is there a scene where one of them says something when they walk out? I can't remember.
It's been a long time since I've seen it. I don't remember.
Me too.
Here's Johnny. That's what he does.
Wow.
No.
This is not a happy cigar.
It's a
Johnny.
Shane.
You should light it. See what happens.
I missed my flight. See, I'm really upset today. I'm pretty
Please
pissed
do
off.
that.
Yeah,
Please do that as we come back. Do that as we come back.
He's really
Here we
upset.
go. Do that as we come back.
Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I
Bloomington's
would have walked out of the Field of
#1
Dreams.
Honda dealer. Come see us at the
I would have done
Andy
that.
Moore
I think
Honda
that was
now in
funny.
Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Oh, welcome back to a just happy Thursday. Brought to you by Remax Realty. If you're in the market for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore, and her 20 years of experience could be the difference between you getting the home you want and not. Give her a buzz, or not, reach out to her. And Cheryl at IndieHomePros.com. We're back. And Chong and Jim. I don't get that one, Jim. How's everybody doing? Missed my flight. Not happy. Jim's upset. Jim's upset. But you guys have been talking about. So I haven't been on Twitter all day because I'm just busy coming back, and we did the show yesterday, and after that, drove back from Chicago, and I didn't have unpack, repack, so I haven't been looking at Twitter or social media. I sent stuff out, of course, but I haven't been checking out. So they're still bitching and moaning about this stuff.
Yes.
What, you talking about the suspensions again?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, now see, the big thing now is that people just want answers, like you said earlier, but they don't deserve to have those answers. It's not their business.
No,
People
no one's
just think that they
we
have the
don't
right to
deserve
know.
it. Hey, I just traveled to Chicago and drove back. Before that, we travel all over the place. We don't deserve to know. If we find out, which is our job, great, but we don't deserve to know, and we're following them and covering them everywhere. So I don't know how fans, especially, I will guarantee you that fans that said that does not attend a single game. I'll almost guarantee you that. Could be wrong, but I would be close.
My favorite part about all of this is typically when you'll get these comments about, well, if the media did their jobs, okay, but then it becomes a double-edged sword, because then there's a time when a media member will report something and it's like, you have it out for such and such coach or such and such player. It's like, well, we have jobs to do. You can't know the situation if nobody tells you what it is, and you can't speculate. That gets you in a whole lot of trouble. Like, I think people, I don't know that people understand the difficult, and I'm not complaining about it, but there's a fine line to toe when you work in sports media or in any media, to not spread a false narrative or to spread lies, and to make sure that your sources are ironclad and make sure the information you're getting is factual, because if you don't, you're going to have a serious problem on your hands. And
I can speak from experience from that. It
just frustrates me.
I can speak from experience of that. Last year with the Thad Matta thing, I had the story right, but there was one piece of information that they gave me, and the way that they worded it was wrong, and everybody focused on that and not what the story was. And so trust me, I get it. That's why that guy yesterday on Twitter, it was just a fan. I'm like, dude, quit saying, well, it's just weed. It's just weed. No, it's not. You can't say that. He said, well, that's what I'm hearing. I go, hearing where? I said, have you heard that from any media? And he says, the media is not reporting anything. He says, because if you don't know, you can't report it.
Right.
Hence, that's why it's not being reported. He said, well, if something else. I'm like, well, if you take the if out of that, you got something. And it's like they're not getting. This is like court. How many times has someone looked, oh my God, that guy's guilty. Oh man, he's guilty. And it turns out, oh my God, they weren't guilty at all. Dude,
right.
Relax. Just relax. Just chill out, people. I'm like, trust me, if I'm not tore up, I used to be the hardest ass about everything. And I think a lot of that was Archie Miller just wore me down. I'm not kidding. But I still got able to look at things and just say, man, y'all need to relax. First of all, this is Mike's first year. They've accomplished things that they haven't accomplished in 6 or 7 years. They beat Purdue. They were 16-5 at one moment. Now they're 16-7. They're in the top half of the Big Ten. They should have won that game the other night. They've got the players to do it. This is a major issue, but stop complaining. Look at where you were last year and the year before that. Stop complaining. Look who's coming in. Jalen Hood-Schifino, Banks, CJ Gunn. That's talent, man. CJ Gunn's going off in every fourth quarter game he's playing. Jalen Hood-Schifino was just raised to a 5-star in the Rivals 150. That's the talent that's coming in. Good kids from good families, and they're going to make good decisions, and they'll make good decisions on the court. But you can't expect Mike Woodson to wave a wand in year one and everything be great. He's dealing with former Archie players, Archie transfer player, and transfers of his own. Putting that all together, it's in first year on top of that, and yet still exceeding expectations. So I hate to tell the fans that they need to hush, but zip it. Zip it,
well,
man.
I guess now that we I don't want to have to put this to bed, but while we've got a few minutes, I do want to bring up the Big Ten division potential realignment or demolishing of division, since we have Dustin on with us. We had Jeffrey the Greek talking about it with us last Friday, as Pete Clausen does ISB Off the Rails edition. This definitely feels like Indiana Sports Beat Off the Rails today. We had a surprise.
After hours.
Yeah, more like Indiana Sports Beat after hours. Yeah.
Here's a great point. Great point.
Was it Hunter Perea that got a DUI and played the next game? IU needs Coach Woodson to hold everyone the same expectations.
A DUI. I'm telling you, these guys didn't do anything close to a DUI. That would get you, I think, an automatic 3-game suspension now, wouldn't it? I mean, like someone smokes marijuana. I think like a failed marijuana test is a 3-game suspension.
I think I saw Zach Osterman tweet something, and I don't want to misquote him, so this is a summary, but he said something to the effect of, if it was a failed drug test or something involving the law, then there is, it wasn't even 3 games. It was Indiana University has stipulations to that, and they would not have been on the bench. They would not have been suited up. They would have either been behind the bench, left at the hotel, or whatever the case might have been.
The best comment I saw all day was from Rick Bozich. He said if Bob Knight was coach, they would be in a van right now on I-65 South.
Right, yeah.
That I laughed my ass off. I'm like, oh my goodness. And he knows from experience because he was almost in a van on I-65 South after almost missing the team bus once. One of his funny stories. But that's the truth. Yes, they would have. So that's why people need to chill out. And again, it's not your business. It doesn't matter. Who cares? More importantly, it's the act. It's doing. It's what you did. It's the decision that you made. It's not what you did. It's inconsequential. That's just the desire for people to know. I quickly got to the point where I'm like going, yeah, I'd like to know, but you know what? I know it wasn't something major, so I really don't care. I'm more concerned now with the fact that they did it.
Right. Well, there you go. Before we get off topic again, Dustin, just go ahead and while we have a few minutes, what are your initial thoughts on what the Big Ten might be doing scheduling-wise in terms of realignment? And maybe we'll get into that if we have a few minutes after you share your thoughts, too.
Well, my initial thought I have a lot of thoughts. Number one is I think that the Big Ten needs to go down to
before we start that, because I
go ahead. We only got 5 minutes. We only got 5 minutes.
Quickly. This is so this person is saying that they should have considered whether they make the tournament, no suspensions. No, that's integrity. That's integrity. If you do that, then you have no integrity. And I absolutely disagree with that. Sorry. Let's restart that segment.
So,
Dustin, welcome back. Okay, go ahead.
Welcome back. No, that was a good point. To me, I think the Big Ten does need to go back down to playing 8 conference games, because you look at the SEC, you look at the ACC, it's a toll it takes on your body. I don't care if it's Rutgers, Maryland, Illinois, Northwestern, to play a ninth. Every team in the Big Ten last season played at least 10 Power 5 teams. Every team except one. That one team was Indiana, and they played an undefeated Cincinnati team who went on and made the college football playoff. So let's just go ahead and say every Big Ten team played 10 Power 5 teams. That takes a toll on your body when the SEC is loading up on teams from the Sun Belt, when they're loading up on teams from Conference USA, the FCS level. They have that cupcake week built into before the final week of the season, basically, where those teams are playing FCS opponents. So you need to go back down to 8 teams. Now, the division realignment talk. A lot of people want to eliminate divisions. That doesn't resolve the issue, in my opinion. If I'm Ohio State, though, I would have made the Big Ten championship game all but one season. I ran some other statistics, too. The Big Ten West winner would have actually finished first or second in the Big Ten I can't remember what it is, all but 3 seasons, I think. Now,
because of their weaker schedule, though.
So, yeah, the one thing you got to factor in is they're not playing all 3 of those gauntlets from the Big Ten East.
But my point to that is, when are you going to get schedule equality? You're not going to get it even if you eliminate divisions, because you're going to keep – look at Iowa, for example. You're going to keep them having their rivalry with Wisconsin. You're going to have them with their rivalry with Minnesota. You're going to have them keeping their rivalry with Nebraska. So that's 3 games. You're probably not going to schedule them to play Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State all in the same season. So there's going to be some discrepancies in scheduling regardless. There's going to be teams that only have –
That's the problem with being too big.
So there's always – unless you play an 11 to 12 game conference schedule, there's going to be discrepancies in the schedule. So does it really change that much? My thought is you need to maybe create maybe a north-south, or maybe realign, maybe move Michigan State and Penn State over to the Big Ten West and move Purdue and, I don't know, Nebraska or Minnesota or somebody else over to the Big Ten East. I really like what James Franklin has suggested.
Scott Frost would love to be in the Big Ten East. I'm sure he would lobby for that.
What James Franklin, I don't know why you can't do this. In my opinion, James Franklin has made the comment, we need to readdress this he says every year. I don't know that you need to do that, but maybe every 3 years, every 4 years.
I agree. But I agree every year because of equality. I do, because I just think it would make it better and fairer if you did every year. Screw it, do it every year. You got to pay attention, and otherwise it gets away from you.
I think you could do every 2 years, so you could schedule the home and home games in the cross division, and then say, okay, this is how we're going to do it this next year. And maybe to a point that gets to, why not just eliminate divisions? I don't know. But to me, you're going to have.
But here's the problem, Dustin. I think they should probably keep divisions, but your record has got to reflect the divisional play, not the cross play, because that's totally ignorant to me. I'm like, there's no point to having divisions if that's how you're doing it, because right now it doesn't. It's so skewed. It's bull. Shorten it to 8 games. You play only divisional opponents, and whatever. But you're going to have to play either a Pac-10 or an ACC. They've got that coming, which would be cool. Which will take the place of that 9th conference game. So it's still going to wear on you a little bit. But you'll have the other 3 your bye games. And you'll have at least a fourth chump in the Big Ten, and maybe a 5th. So you can get 5 winnable games almost every year, which would put you close to bowl eligibility.
Right. And think about how much those bowl games bring in. I mean, the SEC had 13 teams, I believe. Vanderbilt was the only team, I think, that didn't make a bowl game. So when you go back down to 8 games, and if you load up 4, you can load up 3 or 4 patsies, you're going to get 3 or 4 wins. And then if you can just, all you need to do at that point is grind out 2 or 3 wins in the Big Ten. And there's not a team in the Big Ten that can't win 2 or 3 games. We saw it last year. I mean, Indiana they were competitive against Michigan State. They should have beat Cincinnati. They had their chances against Maryland. So they had opportunities. Northwestern had a few games they let slip away. I just think that going down to 8 games helps this team in this grand scheme of the college football playoff. I think that when you look at the divisions, again, especially if you eliminate them and you go down to 8 conference games, you're going to miss, what does that turn out? You're going to miss 6 Big Ten opponents. Indiana's not going to, there's going to be 6 teams Indiana does not play. There's a possibility that they could not play Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Michigan State, Wisconsin, and Iowa. There's a scenario where or maybe it's 5. It's 5 without them. So they only play one of those 5 or 6 teams. So who's to, and let's say they go undefeated, and then, they get to the Big Ten championship game because they didn't have to play any of those teams. So it's a tangled mess. I just think you move 1 or 2 teams from the East to the West and vice versa, and I think that's how you even things out.
I do not disagree with that. I do, absolutely. Unfortunately, we're out of time today, and that just I could go all day right now. I'm so fired up. But that's it, unfortunately. I'm glad I could make it on with you. I know I'm not glad about the reason. But I hope you guys go out and have a great day. And don't forget, if you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, visit with our friend Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. If you're looking for a new automobile, Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, the #1 Honda dealer, and Southern Stone Restaurant at Patterson and Rogers, home of Inside Indiana basketball. Monday night, Mike Woodson will be there with Don Fisher at 7:05. That's going to wrap it up today. So much thanks to Dustin Schutte, John the producer. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. We'll do this again tomorrow, full bore. Have a great one. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. Charlie Miller coming up next with the postgame. I'll see you on radio. I didn't know how you want